Hello and welcome to Tim's Longmoor Military Railway. And what am I doing with an e-bike? Well, this is the e-bike that I use to do all my explorations of the track beds and hills, and there's a lot of mud, and it's been absolutely fantastic for that with its big tyres and all that power. The hardest bit is pronouncing its name. Yeah, it says Rzoguwex. It's a Rzoguwex S7, so we'll call it the S7 from now on, I think. There are many chances of getting the pronunciation completely wrong. The specs before we go out and climb some hills and plug mud and all the rest of it advertised as a 1000-watt brushless motor on the rear. It was actually sold on Amazon as a 500-watt, and now they don't mention the power at all because of legal reasons. Torque up to about 95 newton meter, all before I forget, of course, being a 48-volt battery and a 30-amp controller, that's actually 1500 watts into the back motor. So yeah, it's a lot of power, and it really does show that amount of power going into the motor. It's extremely fast off the line. Capable of handling steep slopes up to 35 to 45 degrees. Yeah, you're going to have to be an Olympic cyclist to go up one of those. I'd say probably 1 in 5, 1 in 4. It'll more or less get up with a tiny bit of pedalling, but 45 degrees, no chance at all. Now this hill's a 1 in 5 we're coming up to now. So we'll give it a go up here. No pedalling this time, to let the bike do all the work. We slow down, but it gets us up here. Top speed, they say it's 37. In my experience, it's about 31, 32, and that has to be on a metalled road rather than over mud and heather and grass, which is where I ride it. So yeah, I reach about 31, 32 miles an hour on it. Gears, we have 7-speed Shimano derailleurs on it, of course, usual stuff on a fat tyre e-bike. Battery is 48 volts, as I've already said, and 25 amp hour. So it's a big battery, and it's a heavy battery. And it's worth mentioning that it's hard work getting the battery out to recharge it. You can recharge it while it's on the bike. As a general rule, the bike stays outside and the battery comes indoors to get charged. It takes about 6 to 8 hours to recharge it. Frame is aerospace grade aluminium alloy, they call it. 26x4, fat tyres on it. Dual suspension, so it's got air suspension on the back, which you can puff up. So if you're heavier, you can get more puff in it. It works really well. Front suspension is the old motorbike type. It hasn't got much travel, but it does work. Brakes are brilliant. Twin hydraulic brakes, disc brakes on it. And great brakes as well, yeah. Twin hydraulic brakes. It's well worth mentioning the weight of the bike because at 35 kilograms, yeah, for instance, if you're out riding on soft ground, you stop, put the side stand down to do a bit of filming, and when you turn round, the bike is falling over because the side stand has sunk into the soft ground. Yeah, it's never great, especially when the handlebar disappears into the mud. The first problem I found, of course, was all the instructions about building the bike show people lifting the bike out of the box. Well, 35 kilograms, you really don't want to do that. I found it much easier to completely disassemble the box, get all the staples out with a pair of pliers, open the box up, and the first thing I do is turn the bike upside down and fit the front wheel. And after that, everything else can be done with it on its side stand. So it makes it a lot easier. Of course, the weight as well. I mean, if you have problems, I'll be climbing up hills, doing a bit of pedaling and stuff like that. Yeah, if you run out of puff when you're halfway up a hill, yeah, 35 kilograms is a lot of bike to grab hold of before it tumbles down the hill. Yeah, and I've had that happen a few times. I just managed to catch it in the last instance. But it's well worth mentioning, yeah, 35 kilograms is pretty heavy, but compared to the Burchda HC26, which is 46, 47 kilograms, this is a lightweight. It's also got LED headlights and turn signals and a tail light as well. Headlights really good. So that's the basic spec. Control of the bike is either by throttle or pedal assist, or both, and it comes from the factory set up to have both, but I find that absolutely lethal. So because there's not a torque sense, but only what they call a cadence sensor, which is it just notices that the pedals are turning around, it doesn't know how much effort you're putting into it or anything. Well, if you're pedaling and you've got no throttle put on, then you just go at the speed as set on your speedo. So in this case, this would be just a few miles an hour, and in legal mode, that would be 15 miles an hour. But of course, to control your speed while you're pedaling, you can adjust the throttle. So if you have it open just slightly, then you go quite a slow speed. But the problem is, of course, is while you're pedaling, when you shut the throttle, it'll go absolutely flat out. And that's pretty scary stuff. So I've got it set so that it's throttle only and not pedal controlled at all. Their suspension's good when you're on mud. Most of the sort of shock absorbing is with the tyres. You have them at about 12 psi. They afford a great comfort compared to just the suspension. The suspension works, but not much travel, about like a 1950s trial bike really. Yeah, no more suspension travel than that. Now the S7 is waterproof, but only to a certain extent. What you can't have is, okay, just about there, couldn't have got in any deeper than that. Now where the crank is, that's where the electronics are. Now all the top surface stuff like the display and the wiring and the headlight, they're all waterproof to a certain extent. But the crank isn't, and that's where the controller lives, and they do exactly the same as everyone else does, which have the controller down at the bottom, and they put RTV or silicon sealant around the wires that go into the controller. Well, that isn't waterproof to any extent, I'm afraid. Up we go up here, yeah, that's the right way. Right, let's get a bit of speed up. Up a hill here. Right, here we go then. Oh, that's what the S7's so good at, is this, the initial acceleration. Right, what gear are we in? We're 7th gear, that's not going to do. I have to be in first because I think I'm going to have to pedal when we get near the top. So have another run up at that. Right, full throttle, get up a little bit of speed. There we go. Yeah, I'm going to have to pedal. I'm off the saddle. Oh, just about made it. Yeah, that is a steep hill, as you can see from the view from up here. We're a long way up now. Yeah, I needed a bit more of a run up for that. Let's see what additional front wheel drive does. Here we go. Not messing about. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Wheel spin on the front. Excellent, look at that. We're right at the top. Burchda with its 2 motors can handle that quite easily. Hardly slows down, but that's what 2 motors does for you. Right, let's get back off the hill. We'll go around the back, I think. Ooh, lost the traction. Here we go. The back wheel's locked up already. There we go. It's an old enduro track, this one. It's a bank sides and everything. There we go. That's probably easier to get up than the other one. I'll give that a go. There we go. Nice, give that a go. That should be good fun. Bit more speed this time. Bit of pedalling as well. Round the bank corner. Whoa. Yeah, that's good fun, that is. Bit of pedalling. And stop pedalling, it goes The S7 can go pretty slow and still give it all its torque, but it's probably not good for the motor. There we go. Yeah. Right at the top again. Now, one thing the S7 has got over the Burchda is throttle response. It is absolutely lightning fast. So quick twist of the throttle and you're off. Whereas the Burchda takes a little bit of time to pick up speed. Yeah, it's a sensible way of doing things, because it doesn't put so much load on the motor. But if you try to ride the Burchda like a trials bike, you can't. The throttle response is too slow. Whereas on the S7 you can. We'll go and find a bit of Nadgery to do a bit of riding on. When I first started riding the Burchda after the S7, I kept falling off of it because it's just so slow on the throttle response. And this bike's so good at this sort of stuff. A bit lacking in power on some of the hills, but it's great for this stuff. Oh, down we go. Up the other side. That's good fun, that is. Round we go. There's some hills that you just can't do. They can sort of get stuck halfway up and you have to pedal your way up, but most of this is fine with. Going to get a bit of a run up is the plan with some of it. Let's go down the old sidings, they're good fun. There we go, through the trees. Be waterlogged, I should think. So yeah, waterproof from the top, not from the bottom. We've got to keep the water below the height of the crank, because otherwise the water gets in there. Oh yeah, we're pretty flooded over here. How far is that? We'll take it slow. Get too deep. Yeah, I don't think the bike would last long if the water got up to the crank. Yeah, RTV holding wires in place to make them waterproof just doesn't work. Right, we're through the puddle, that's something. This is going to be really muddy here today. And waterlogged as well. Yeah, that's got to about a depth of what you would have said, yeah, that's probably enough for water depth. Yeah, everywhere is absolutely saturated today. There we go. Yeah, it's great for this sort of saturated mud. Good to get through this with a Nadgery. Yeah, we're not going to get much further up there. It's wet up there for a long way. Well, the performance is in, no doubt. It's a really fast bike and fantastic fun to ride. So what problems have I had? Well, I've had a few. One of the main ones is things come loose and then drop off. It's quite often happening, and it's not the things I've bolted together either. So I've had the main bolt that comes right through here. That's come almost out, just caught it in time and had to put a new fitting on that to hold it. Rear brake disc, that keeps coming loose. So I've tightened all the things up. I had to put Loctite 222 in it and they still came undone. And so ended up putting Loctite 222 on the heads of the bolts as well as the threads, and that seemed to have sorted that out. The other problem I had with the bike was punctures. Yeah, I've had 4 of them now, and that's because I ride around a lot of gorse and thorns and so on. It's the side of the tyre which is really thin. The actual tread of the tyre's pretty thick and you don't get any problems there, but you do get thorns through the side. And my recommendation is to use self-sealing inner tubes, because they can take a little thorn and not leak from it. It's a bit like self-sealing fuel tanks in aeroplanes. So yeah, punctures, yeah, it's a bit of a nuisance because it's a reasonable job to repair a puncture, put it upside down, get the wheel off and all the rest of it. But yeah, self-sealing inner tubes, that's what I'd go for. Now, the major problem I had at with the bike at 10 months was the motor actually failed. It's hardly surprising when you're thinking that we're putting 1200 watts and more through this rear motor. And the software on this bike is such that it got that really fast acceleration. So you're putting a lot of power into a little motor when the motor's not actually turning. And I think that's what killed it in the end. And it was out when I was riding one of the trails, perfectly all right 1 minute. The next minute it sounded like a clutch was slipping. What's going on now? Best head for home. And that makes a lot of people just change the clutch, makes no difference. The actual weird rustling noise isn't gears, it's the controller, and it can't put power into the motor because the windings have started to short out. And these windings had, instead of 0.6 of an ohm, they're 0.04 of an ohm when it actually failed. And that's because the windings get so hot, the insulation fails and all the turns short out. But Rzoguwex were fantastic. They sent stuff almost overnight, free of charge. They sent me this motor with the lead connected and all the rest of it. Such a simple job to do. Just put the bike upside down, remove the rear wheel. It's got 6 bolts around the outside. You have to take the disc off as well, of course. And don't have to take the gears off. They're on the other side. And then just whop the thing out, just hit the axle on the end and the motor comes out. They sent me a whole motor, brand new, just like this. Whopped a new one in, bolted it down. It's done in about half an hour. Fantastic job. So yeah, Rzoguwex, you would have thought, being a sort of, well, they're from Malaysia I was dealing with, but Chinese bike company, sort of faceless, but they weren't. They're absolutely fantastic. So yeah, free of charge, new motor, new charger because the battery wasn't taking a charge, fixed everything, back on the road and faster, in fact, brand new motor on it. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and one look at this motor, you can see all the windings have sort of gone black and fizzled out. And that's what causes the rustling noise. It's the controller going into current limit. And it does it when you put a lot of throttle on, especially when you're taking off. Now, Burchda get around this by not putting a lot of power into the motors. You get very slow movement off the line. But for trials riding on this bike, the throttle response is absolutely brilliant, just like a motorbike. And so you can do all this stuff, stopping and going across rocks and stuff like that with a really fast throttle response. It makes it really easy to ride. Whereas the Burchda, a bit slower, and I keep sort of having to put my foot down because the power doesn't turn up. But yeah, that's the problems I've had. So very few in 10 months and 740 miles or so. And free of charge motor change. And I've know from experience now, yeah, don't rag it off the line all the time. Slowly ramp up the speed a bit more gently. And yeah, this motor's going to last a long time. It's the acceleration off the line, which is fantastic, but it's also the same thing that kills it. Well, I hope you found my review of the Rzoguwex S7 useful. I absolutely love the bike. It's been a perfect companion for the last 744 miles and 10 months of plugging mud and going up really steep hills. I do have a Burchda HC26, which I bought when the S7 failed and I needed to do filming work. But the S7 was back and working very quickly indeed, and quite easily. Changing the rear motor is very easy. I mean, it'd be difficult to say which bike's the best. They both got the attributes as a great off-road machine. The Burchda has obviously got two motors, more expensive, but the main benefit of having two motors to offset the extra weight is, of course, the power shared between the two motors, so you're not going to damage the motors quite so easy as you do in the S7. But of course, I do use the S7 in extreme circumstances, and I really do push it, like going up those hills you saw earlier on. That really is lugging the bike, and that's what does overheat motors and cause them to fail eventually. But that's how I use my bike, and I hope the Burchda HC26 got a bit more longevity in the same conditions. But I do really recommend the S7. I'm not affiliated to the company, as I say, in any way. They've just been very useful. And what's a better bike? Well, that's up to you to decide. I will do a review of the Burchda HC26, and I'll let you know when that turns up. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments and I'll answer them. And I'll see you in the next one.